You clicked the video, I made the video, let's get right into it. Silksong's tools are one half of the lifeblood Team Cherry injected into this perfect Game of the Year sequel. Don't at me, Jeff.
See, you guys won!
Shut your stupid...
Tools alongside Crest create a beautifully customizable experience that keep things fresh for repeat playthroughs. Did you stomp through Farloom's gauntlets with the Wanderer's Crest and Sawtooth Circlet and absolutely melt your way through bosses? Well, next playthrough you can pick up the Witch Crest and nuke everything in existence, doing your best Oppenheimer impression. But the issue is, not all tools are created equal, and in some cases, some tools feel like they were created with an anime protagonist backstory in mind, but none of their shonen abilities. Imagine the plot of Naruto, but he doesn't have the Nine Tails. That's genuinely the definition of sadness and sorrow. So today, let's venture into game design and balancing, something as a YouTuber I am clearly overqualified for, and try and fix the worst tools in Silksong. Starting off our list, we need to talk about the 3 tools that I genuinely believe do not even deserve to call themselves tools: the Spider Strings, the Wreath of Purity, and the Magma Bell. And I'll say right now, fixing these 3 tools in some numeric way to me feels like the worst way to go about it. So I decided to apply all of the life lessons that I learned from the hit 2005 movie Madagascar and got to work. The Spider Strings is a yellow tool that when equipped, your Needle-In's effective range against NPCs and enemies alike is increased by 25%, and it also increases the time they spend singing by around 2 seconds. If you're the type of player to stop mid-combat, pull out your instrument and start rocking out, please consider playing D&D as a bard. You'll have a fantastic time. But otherwise, the tempo and effective DPS loss every single time you pull this tool out is unimaginably large. Stunning an enemy, or if you're extremely lucky, a group of them, often allows you to get 1 free needle hit against them, which you could have just done normally and saved yourself the yellow slot. Now, obviously this tool's real purpose is to allow us to get the lore dialogue from enemy songs without having to get so close to them, meaning, by design, it wasn't meant to be a combat-oriented tool, and that's completely fine. But tacking on 25% range and a paltry increase to the stun duration does not merit the slot in your arsenal. So here's my fix. The Needle-In is obtained after defeating Widow, a weaver who is loyal to Grandmother Silk, so obtaining Needle-In upgrades from Silk-related bosses is already a mechanic that exists, so why not just continue it for the Spider Strings? My fix would be to make the Spider Strings just one part of an upgrade to the Needle-In that can be obtained by defeating either Grandmother Silk or the First Sinner, and make the upgrades to it innate, like the needle upgrades already are in game. This could push the strength of the effect several tiers if all Weaver or Silk related bosses are defeated, including characters like Phantom, thus encouraging the use of the Needle-In more frequently throughout the game, as testing how proficient Hornet has become with it after receiving an upgrade to it honestly sounds really fun. If music is an integral part to Silksong, having the Needle-In upgrade alongside us could create some additional depth to this vital game design philosophy and obviously remove this curse of a yellow tool from the game. Secondary to the Needle-In are the Wreath of Purity and Magma Bells, 2 tools that accomplish effectively the same task: turn down the difficulty of certain areas in the game. The Wreath of Purity obviously deals with the Muck Maggot effect, and after the recent buffs to it, is genuinely a really great tool in the areas that it's relevant in. And of course, the Magma Bell halves the damage of fire and lava-based attacks down from 2 masks to 1, which is genuinely effective in so many areas and feels great to have equipped. But these 2 tools have one glaring issue: they should be innate upgrades to Hornet's Cloak. Imagine a world where you first enter an area with Muck Maggots, Chakra informs you of a rumor she's heard about a seamstress skilled in weaving a type of thread that the Muck Maggots find absolutely repulsive. Well, Map Mommy said it, so you have to go get it. And so you do, and you end up finding said seamstress, complete a quest that takes you through some incredibly perilous areas across the Muck Maggot infected zones, and upon your return, rewarded with a brand new cloak that has the built-in effect of the Wreath of Purity. To me, that is peak gameplay. Going out of your way to over-prepare for an area harkens back to the early RPGs, where grinding prior to entering a dungeon or a gym battle in Pokemon wasn't ever necessary, but boy did it feel good to take your Pikachu into Brock's gym and demolish that pervert after decimating generations of Pidgeys and Rattatas outside of Pewter City. This same loop could be completed with the Forge Daughter, helping her in some meaningful way, as Hornet already enjoys doing, and for it, she is rewarded with the means to protect herself from the scorching heat. During many of my playthroughs, upon venturing back into Muck Maggot or lava-infested areas, I wasn't immediately reminded or incentivized to go to a bench, change my build around, and put these on. And I've seen so many comments on my ranking series that so many of you didn't even find the Wreath of Purity till after beating Roll, and that just kind of feels bad. So making them innate upgrades like the Spider Strings feels incredibly appropriate and matches the game mechanics that Team Cherry has already implemented into the base game. The Egoplia, the Grubberfly Elegy's counterpart in Silksong, and oh boy is it a giant disappointment.
What is wrong with you? Why are you blue?
even compared to the middling Hollow Knight charm. What this gem of a blue tool does is decrease the cost of silk skills from 4 to 3 while health is full. It's not the fact that this tool can only be obtained after collecting every single flea, no, nor is it the fact that it can only be obtained in Act 3. It's the dagger in the heart requirement of needing to be at max HP for a paltry 25% decrease in silk skill cost. Spell Twister in the original Hollow Knight game has a similar effect of decreasing the soul cost of casting spells from 33 to 24, which if my calculations are correct is a 31% decrease. And guess what? Of course it doesn't have activation requirements, because why would it? To me, the Egoplia suffers from the sins of the father, because the Shaman Stone and Spell Twister demolished the concept of difficulty from Hollow Knight, and Team Cherry refused to let spells give unholy backshots to their bosses ever again. So let's fix it. And despite my previous rant, we aren't going to remove the restriction of needing to be at full HP to activate the silk skill cost decrease. Instead, we're going to give it an additional effect that reads, when below max HP, decreases the cost of binding by 33%. This change might seem dramatic, making binding cost 6-7 instead of 9, but remember this tool is only available very late in the game, during the final crawl through the hardest bosses and most difficult enemies, after collecting 30 of these precious angels from the bowels of Farloom. The synergy this tool would provide itself would make it one of the most powerful tools, I absolutely agree, but not so powerful that tools like Sawtooth Circlet, Volt Filament, or even the Multi-Binder would be completely out of the competition for blue tool slots. Also appropriately reward us with a powerful and unique series of synergistic effects that would feel great to have earned. The Rosary Cannon is a generational disappointment, and arguing that it has merits is an instant aura collapse and first-class ticket to the slab. Strapping up Hornet with a glizzy that fires the corrupt religious currency of a collapsed theological society is fucking cinema, and should have been peak gaming from the moment we acquire it till the final satisfying bullet lands in the heaping bosom of our grandmommy. So let's make that a reality. The first change that needs to happen is allowing the Rosary Cannon to be reloaded wherever, whenever the player desires, which immediately goes into our next and most important change, ammo types. Throughout the game, we already acquire several types of tools that change the element of what we do, with the flint slate burning our needle, Volt Filament adding electric damage to our spells, and things like it. So why not expand on the idea even further and have ammo types that can be collected from major areas like Mount Fae, imbuing our bullets with ice that slows enemies and bursts into AoE icicles like the Memory Crystal, Vile Water and the Putrefied Ducks giving a Muck Maggot bullet type that spreads poison to nearby enemies, acting as an upgrade to the Polyp Pouch, and really the list goes on. Doing this while simultaneously making the weapon's damage worth the cost of not hitting with needle, minus the cost of being able to attack at range, would do a lot to make this incredibly high potential tool an absolute ton of fun to use and customize. Next up, let's talk about a controversial pick, the Flint Slate. Let me start the conversation with some facts. Increasing your needle damage by a jaw-dropping Looney Tunes level 50% is insane and cannot be understated. That said, it kinda sucks to use in combat after what was probably your first cast when the boss was screaming at you with their name on the screen. After that point, trying to find an opening after the buff is worn off either feels like you're wasting damage or putting so much mental effort forward that you're more likely to take damage, so let's try and solve both of those things. I think we can agree that 8 seconds is far too little, and having no scaling whatsoever with crafting kits means throughout the game, you are unlikely to feel this tool grow alongside you in a meaningful way, which sucks. So let's increase the base duration per crafting kit upgrade by 2 seconds, which at max crafting kits will double the duration of the Flint Slate to a generous 16 seconds. However, just buffing the duration is uber boring and completely one-dimensional. What I want to do is give it a later game synergy with the Wisfire Lantern. Since the Lantern already encourages needle forward builds since it constantly spends silk, these two pair incredibly well together both in design and functionality. So giving them a paired synergy that allows the Flint Slate to instantly burn enemies on your first needle attack landed, and the Lantern's wisps growing in size by roughly double to increase their chances at actually hitting faster moving enemies, I think would make both of these tools feel much more fun to use and introduce opportunities for elemental based synergies within the game. Lastly, I want to talk about this knucklehead, the Magnetite brooch, which for me is offensively mid, given how oppressive the economics of Farloom and Silksong are. Early Act 1 and 2 are absolutely brutal with how often you're nickel and dimes for every bench, checkpoint, tool upgrade, and everything in between. And the horrible misery of watching precious rosaries fall into the abyss is some of the most depressing gameplay of last year. Still game of the year though, Jeff. So when the Magnetite brooch promised to save my precious rosaries, I immediately slapped it on. And yeah, they still fell off screen and not in my pockets.
We're not rich! We're broke!
So I have two changes to this tool that will make it absolutely amazing. One, just give it a slight adjustment to both the range of the magnetism and increase how aggressively they are pulled towards Hornet, because if you're killing a group of enemies across the screen, you often have to wait as the Rosary travels at a literal snail's pace towards Hornet and thus slowing down the entire run. Two, and this one is an entirely new effect, allow the Magnetite brooch to retrieve magnetic tools after they've been thrown. This would include things like all of these and would hopefully act in a similar way to the Ava's Assembler in old school RuneScape, where on a chance-based system, maybe determined by how many crafting kits you own, sometimes your tools will be retrieved and stocked back into your pool for immediate use. Even giving it a 20% chance to do so would mean the world for a lot of tools, and giving players some reason to include it in their builds for any moment longer than when they are farming rosaries in the high halls. I had at some point an idea to allow the plasmium file to be used to inject enemies and force their transformation into a plasmified version of themselves, but that would require like 1,000 new models, attacks, and animations, despite being within the realm of possibility in what the tool has been shown to do. Even giving it a simple debuff to enemies, like lowering their statistical defenses, thus increasing the damage they take, could be a simple change that would give this fairly one-dimensional powerhouse some versatility and lore-related function. This is especially cool given how likely it is that Lifeblood will be at the absolute center of the upcoming DLC, but let's let Team Cherry cook that one up themselves. That's it for the video. If you have any other tools that you want to see changed or fixed and have ideas yourself, leave a comment, and maybe I'll make a part 2 of this video if there's any interest for it. Peace.